Hi BookTube, this is Lindsay. Welcome to my first ever video. I decided to start making a BookTube channel or BookTube videos because I have a lot of free time right now given what's going on in our world with the coronavirus and everything. And so I figured I've been watching BookTube for years and I've always wanted to make my own channel, but I never have because of time. But right now I have quite a bit of free time, and I'm also using that time to read a fair bit, and so I figured I would go ahead and start making videos. We'll see how this goes. My job is actually a university writing instructor, but all of our classes are online at the moment because of COVID, and this is finals week. So after this week I don't have a lot going on. Because our classes will be over and we'll see what happens in the fall. So this is the perfect time to start making these videos and see how this goes and see if I even actually want to upload this when I'm done. Anyway, so as you can tell behind me, I read a ton. I'm a very eclectic reader. I read anything, sci-fi, fantasy, historical fiction, classics, non-fiction of all kinds of stripes, and so I have a ton of books. I'm actually sitting in front of a pile of books that I don't have room for, so you can't see it. So I will talk about a lot of different books on this channel because I do read so avidly, and so I figured for this first video I would talk about the books that I am currently reading. And I am very much a polygamist reader. I read multiple books at a time because I get tired or bored of one type of genre, so I'll pick up something in a different genre. And so that tends to lead to me reading 5-6 books at a time. And I like to think it makes me read faster, but it really doesn't. So it's just a lie I tell myself. Anyway, so I want to talk about the books that I'm currently reading. I'm going to start with the fiction books that I'm currently reading, and then I'll talk about the one non-fiction book that I have on the go at the moment. Alright, so we'll just dive right in. The first book is The American Senator by Anthony Trollope. This is for Steve Donahue. A lot of you probably know who Steve Donahue is. He's a booktuber. He does multiple videos a day, and he has his Consorting with Lonely Trollops read-alongs going on for the year of 2020, where he is hosting read-alongs each month for a different standalone Anthony Trollope book. If you're familiar with Anthony Trollope, you know he has 2 series that are famous, but his standalone works aren't necessarily the ones that get the most attention. So Steve decided that this year he would do read-alongs for the standalone novels of Trollope. So far we've done How We Live Now and Mr. Scarborough's Family, and then our third book is The American Senator. So far out of the 3, we've only read 20 chapters in this, so we haven't got that far. But out of the 3, I really loved How We Live Now. That's probably my favorite. Mr. Scarborough's Family was okay, but it didn't thrill me much. This one so far is better than Mr. Scarborough's Family, so it will probably end up being one that I like. Probably not as much as How We Live Now, but I think I'll definitely enjoy it more than Mr. Scarborough's Family. So that's my first read for the Consorting with Lonely Trollops. And then my second read is for the read-along maybe Midrash, where you pick a book or books about religion. It can be any religion, Christian, Judaism, anything like that. And you are asked to read at least 1 or 2 books about it. It can be fiction and non-fiction, or maybe you just want to do fiction or just non-fiction. But anyway, my first choice for that, I'm probably going to pick up a fiction book if I have time, but my first choice was Judas by Amos Oz. This has been on my shelf for years, and I needed to get to it And part of what I'm trying to do right now, since I have so much free time with being stuck at my house a lot, is to read some of the backlist books I have that I've had on my shelf for a long time, and this is one of them. And it fits very well with the maybe Midrash read along for religion. So this is the first fiction book that I've chosen, and like I said, I'm hoping to pick up some other things over the course of this month as well. So that's my second fiction book. And then, of course, we have to have sci-fi and fantasy, or this would not be my typical list of books that I'm reading. So we have The Last Wish by Sapkowski, who is the writer of the Witcher books. I watched the first season on Netflix, and I loved it. I'm not a big TV watcher, but I inhaled The Witcher. I enjoyed it, and so I wanted to read the books, and so I have the first, 2 prequel books, and then I have the first 3 in the series, and I plan on reading these. I don't know how, if I'll read them one after another. I tend to, read a couple in a series and then sort of taper off for a while, but I do want to read these, and I am really liking this so far. I'm not that far in. I'm only 20 pages, but I did really like what I'd read so far, so I'm hoping to enjoy these and to continue on with the rest of the series. And then my other sci-fi fantasy book, well, it's mainly, fantasy, is the second book in the Dreamblood duology by N.K. Jemisin. It's called The Shadowed Sun. Yes, The Shadowed Sun. I read the first book in this duology, The Killing Moon, last year in 2019, and it was actually supposed to be a buddy read with a friend of mine, but she never read it, Hannah. I doubt she's seen this, but anyway, and so I wanted to read the second book in this duology and get this completed, and so I decided to pick this up and finish this off as well. N.K. Jemisin is probably one of my favorite authors, so it's fun to read her backlist. As I've read the Broken Earth trilogy and loved it, I read her most recent book that just came out, The City That We Became, and I really enjoyed that. At first I didn't think I was going to, but I did, and so I wanted to read the rest of this duology as well. Luckily I remember enough from the first book, even though it's been a while since I've read it, that I can read the second book without having to reread the first one. And so that is my other science fiction fantasy book that I'm reading. And then lastly is my nonfiction book, and that is The Founding Brothers, The Revolutionary Generation by Joseph Ellis. And this book talks about exactly that, the Founding Brothers. You can see them on the side here. So it's got Washington, Jefferson, Hamilton, Adams, Madison, and Franklin. And it talks about each of them and the role that they played in the founding of our country and the ideals that went into, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And so each chapter focuses on a different aspect of how these things came about. The first chapter was about the duel between Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton, which we all have heard about before. And then the second chapter was about a dinner party that Jefferson hosted in order to talk with these other founding men about financial affairs in the country. So this is my current non-fiction read that I have going, and it's short. It's not even 300 pages, so I'm hoping to finish it up fairly soon and hopefully pick up something else in nonfiction, because I really do enjoy reading nonfiction. It gets a lot of flack, and I know a lot of people on BookTube don't like it, but I love nonfiction. This whole shelf over here is a lot of my nonfiction books. It's not all of them, and it's overflowing because I have so many. So yeah, this is my nonfiction. And then a book that I started reading, but I've kind of put off for the moment until I finish some of these, is Natasha Pulley's latest book, The Lost Future of Pepper Harrow. This is the direct sequel to The Watchmaker of Filigree Street, which I read in January. It was another one of those books that had been sitting on my shelf for ages. And I heard Katie from Books and Things talk about The Watchmaker of Filigree Street and then this book and how much she loved them. And I was like, okay, I really need to read Watchmaker of Filigree Street. And I did, and I fell in love with it. It's one of my favorite books of 2020 so far. So I pre-ordered this book, and it came, and I was so excited, and I really want to read it, but it's sort of on the back burner until I finish some of the other things that I just showed you, and then I'm going to dive into this. I read the prologue, but I haven't gotten any further, but I'm hoping to have it read by the end of the month. Okay, so that is all of the books that I have read, or am reading, I should say, currently in the month of April. Hopefully this won't be all of them, and I hope you have enjoyed this first video of mine. Hopefully it's not too awkward, and please leave me a message down in the comments if you have thoughts on any of these books, and if you're interested, please do subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Thanks, BookTube.